Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Angela Wells. I lead Oracle's CX Customer Advocacy team, and I'm so happy you've joined us today for our Customer Spotlight series. I'd like to welcome my co-host today, my friend Clark Morey. He and I work together on a number of our sports customers, and Clark, it's always fun to tag team with you.
Absolutely. Love being on your team.
Great. I'd like to start with a poll because we'd like to get to know, well, what kind of sports fans are all of you? So we're going to serve up a poll here. And this ranges everything from an avid fan of multiple teams and multiple sports down to not a sports fan, but here to learn about sales and marketing. So we're going to give you a moment to put your answer in there, and then we'll show the answers to all of you. Clark, what would your answer be?
Mine would absolutely be an avid fan of multiple teams and multiple sports. Just the excitement, the pregame warm-up of anything, just getting out and seeing and cheering a team on.
Absolutely. In person or virtual, I am as loud as can be. So I'm just thrilled that more than half of us on this call are avid fans of multiple teams and multiple sports. So we are glad you are here to join us today to learn about one of these wonderful teams, the Stanley Cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning. And so as you may know, in September 2020, they won the Stanley Cup, and they had this to say to their fans.
I've been in this city for 12 years, but this is by far the best experience of my hockey life. And I couldn't be happier to share with every single person in this building tonight.
Before the fireworks, before the parade, before the homecoming, before we hoisted the cup and became champions. It started in the gym. It started at practice.
Let's go.
It started, stopped, and started again, thousands of miles away. It started by chasing for the ultimate goal.
Point! Score! Brayden Point! They win the series! 5-4 in overtime!
Overcoming adversity together.
Score! Hedman! The Lightning win it! And they're on to the Eastern Conference Final!
Moment by magical moment.
Good row behind the net. In front of Sorelli. Is it in? Score! Stanley Cup Final! Here come the Lightning!
And it doesn't happen without you.
Time ticks down! The Lightning win the Stanley Cup! They have reached the top of the mountain! They are the Stanley Cup champs!
On September 28th, 2020, we won the Stanley Cup. And you know what? It's yours too, because you're a big part of our team. And on behalf of all of us at the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Vinik Sports Group, thank you for all your great support.
I love that video. Thank you, Bolts Nation, indeed. So please join me in welcoming. We have two of our customers here to help share this wonderful story about how the Tampa Bay Lightning brought sales and marketing together to increase engagement by 28%. So I'd like you to welcome Travis Pelleymounter, Vice President of Ticket Sales and Service, and Christina Corey, the Digital Marketing Manager for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Travis, I'm going to serve my first question up to you. It's an exciting big day tomorrow with the kickoff of the new NHL season. I'd love to hear more about how you're feeling and hope that you can give us some background for our attendees here about your history with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the organization. Presumably, when people think of Florida, they might not think of hockey, but after this webinar, I'm sure they will going forward, and hopefully they'll tune in tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Angela. We hope they do. So to Angela, to you and to Clark and everybody at Oracle, first, thank you so much for having Christina and I on the call today. We're delighted to be here to share a little bit about our story and maybe some about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Vinnick Sports Group, which we're very proud to work for. This will be personally my 23rd year in sports, my 9th overall with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I did win my first Stanley Cup. I have a little miniature one here. I don't have the real one. This is as good as we're going to get today. You don't want to drink out of this one. You're not going to get a full beer. But we have fun. The Lightning was founded in 1992 here in Tampa. It's been here ever since. Been a really powerful franchise, but it really took a giant leap in 2010 when our owner, Jeff Vinnick, bought the team and really changed our culture and the way we do business. I know Christina and I consider ourselves lucky to work for such a visionary owner, someone that invests in people first. And I think that's what I'd love to share most about our organization is we love winning hockey games. We love thinking about the competition on the ice, but we try to win off the ice as well. And that's with sales and service, how we approach everything we do. It's to get better. It's with products like Eloqua that we can do that. We can be more efficient, and we're excited to share some about that. And finally, I'd say I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we try to weave ourselves into the fabric of this community. It's extremely important to us that we're a part of the community that we live in. We understand always and listen what's going on around us. We believe volunteerism comes first. We want to be part of making a difference. We are very, very excited about starting the season tomorrow and starting the defense of our Stanley Cup championship. We did have to announce late last week that unfortunately it will start without fans. And I think that's exactly what I'm getting at is we had to realize what's going on in our community. And we all know that we're living through a pandemic. We have to roll with the punches, so to speak. So we'll be watching at home on TV with the rest of you on NBC SN. But we are very proud to work here. We're excited to get started. As I said, we want to make our community better. And if that's through the power of Lightning hockey or events, then we've been successful.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, even though you won't have fans in the stadium, you will certainly have fans cheering along. And as you said about getting started, a little bit of housekeeping for attendees. We have some experts in sports marketing and some members of the Tampa Bay Lightning team who are on hand to answer any of the Q&A you put in the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen. So don't feel that you need to hold any questions, but we'll have people ready to answer as we go. So as we go, Christina, I'd love to give you the chance to introduce yourself to the team. You're a very experienced marketer and new to this team. So goodness, what a year to join the team. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. So thank you for having me. I come from a technology and SaaS, marketing and professional services. My family and I are from Florida. We have been huge Lightning fans since they were at the fairgrounds. My husband attended the very first inaugural game, so we were just infiltrated as a fan. And my son plays competitive hockey, so it even goes beyond just being a fan.
Perfect. Well, they say make sure your job is something you love, and you have certainly found a way to do that, which is fantastic. Travis, I'd like to serve up a question to you about, since you have had about 8 years with Tampa Bay Lightning, how has your business model adapted in this climate of market uncertainty? And how has that led to some of the technology you've chosen and some of the teams you collaborate with?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, Angela, we just had to find a new way to communicate. There's a lot of email and Zoom fatigue, and people just want to communicate the fastest way they can. Let's get it done, get it off our plate, somebody else can handle it. And working closely with Christina and Lexi and their entire team, we learned quickly that maybe we can be a little bit smarter about this. And luckily, I work with really smart people, and they challenged me to hey, let's think about this a different way. We don't have to send 99 emails a week. Maybe we can slow down. Less is more. Or maybe in some cases, more is less, right? Just think about it a different way. And I think we really had to challenge ourselves to say, how can we segment first and then communicate second, slow down and do it the right way? Understanding that, and I will say Christina's great about this. Sometimes we just got to get a message out, and she understands that. Sometimes in sports timing, like we live in seasons. So sometimes there's timing that we can't avoid and things get a little messy and muddy. And I'm thankful that she's willing to allow those ones to sneak through. But when we have a little bit of time to think about it and do it the right way, the results are amazing. And as I mentioned before, Eloq was that primary product. I use the quote, I'm the dumb sales guy that gets to work with the smart people, and they show us how to market and strategically communicate. And the results are pretty astounding.
The results are astounding. I mean, I'm fortunate to work with an awful lot of organizations, and the increase that you all have generated in your engagement is wonderful. And for all of you listeners, we're going to show you some tangible examples of how they have laid out their campaigns and some of their communications. But Christina, conceptually, can you help our listeners understand, how did you technically work with the sales team? How did you bring marketing and sales closer together to meet some of these goals and even define some of these shared goals?
So when I came on board in November, just from past experience, I already knew how important it was to work closely with sales. And so I immediately sought out Travis and his leadership, just to introduce myself, give some high level questioning to find out, where their headspace was, how they like to communicate with fans. And then beyond that, I started asking Travis, where can I join your team? Where can I sit in and listen what they're hearing from the customers? Where can I sit in and listen to how you communicate? One thing about winning the Stanley Cup was it was an amazing time to restart and allow us to engage in those exciting times that our fans were experiencing watching on television, and allowing them an opportunity to segment themselves where they wanted to be communicated with. And so what I did was, we knew that was a great opportunity. So Travis and the team and I had sat around the table, and we said, what can we do to allow customers during this exciting time to do that? And so we came up with a plan to allow them to place themselves into the buckets. We had them set out in a preference page and allowed them to go through and choose. I want to hear more about retail. I want to hear more about sports news. I want to hear more about the off the ice information. And we allowed them to put themselves into those places.
And that's fantastic, because with those fans, you're clearly seeing that it's not one size fits all, one kind of blanket communication to everyone at the same time. So Travis, you've heard Christina's summary. I saw you nodding aggressively along that she had it right. I mean, it's clear that you have so much faith and trust in this collaboration. Can you talk kind of tactically for our listeners I hear from every industry, this challenge of bringing sales and marketing together. How did you align your team to marketing? How did you get that alignment on goals of what you'd be measured on, what mattered? It's not, for example, the number of emails that go out, but the real engagement and the revenue. How did you tactically make that happen?
This is such a fantastic question, because there's a simple answer. But it is more, it's more complex below the surface. It starts out first with just communication and being trusting in each other, working together, understanding that we all have the same goal, right? Like if you start with the same foundation and say, we want to sell and service Lightning tickets at the very highest level. You have to be willing to understand that there might be a different left or right turn than you expected when it started. And if you can start there and have that basic agreement, then the little things that people fight over and they dig their heels in on don't really matter. And that's where I think it gets important, is so when you get to some of those details and tactics, you're willing to bend on something that before you were just so adamant about, right? Like, so an example of, I might want to send a specific email that can only have one message and it has to go. And Christina would push back and say, well, you're sending 2 more this week that have 2 other messages. Let's put them all in one and send one email, right? The sales guy would say, but then they're not going to read the one thing I want them to read, right? And you just have to believe and have faith that they will. Also, I would love to point out that in terms of tactics, the amount of time it saved. We have 8 people on our service team that each have about 500 accounts that are very big Lightning fans and can be needy at times and want to get you on the phone at a moment's notice. Well, segmenting our fans and communicating to them the information they want to read saves our team phone calls. Over the summer, our team made 20,000 phone calls, which is a lot. And you're always on the phone. You can't always share the information, and you have a list of 25 things you need to share. If Christina and her team can pick off 22 of those, we can just make a really quick phone call and get on to the next one. So the amount of efficiency that segmenting created in terms of communication created is we I don't think you can put a dollar figure on it. It saves so much time and effort, as well as headaches and just phone call fatigue from our team.
Well, and saves your fans any headaches too, because they get to concentrate when they get you on the phone on what really matters. So perfect.
Exactly.
Well, before we dive into, we're going to show listeners, we're going to show you some of the details of how they played out this campaign. But Clark, I'd love to bring you back into this conversation to join us. As far as you work with a number of our sports customers, can you talk about how this collaboration between sales and marketing at the Tampa Bay Lightning is similar to and different from the other teams that you work with? And maybe if that leads to any advice for some of these teams to create this trusting relationship like Christina and Travis have.
Yeah, I've been, Christina, when did you start? About a year ago, maybe even just a little less than that. And you had experience on marketing automation platforms other than Eloqua, which is okay. And that experience, and then you had experience that was outside of the sports realm. And so you brought two different perspectives in. And I know it took a little bit to get used to using Eloqua, just like driving a different car. But once you got it, I remember we were on a call with one of our product experts, and he explained away just a different perspective to look at the data and the campaign management, the campaign builder and things like that. And then it just clicked. And then it all kind of made sense. And just to have that different perspective, and I'm seeing that with a lot of teams, bringing in a lot more analytics and BI executive people on the team, just to add that perspective. But it all comes down to the data and being able to have the data in one place to clean it. I know you got to spend a lot of time cleaning that data at first, and then being able to analyze it and use it. And that was huge.
Perfect. It is absolutely huge. The technology should be a way to connect with the fans, but truly it's that understanding of the data and the messages you want to get out that is so important. So Christina, you have given us a little bit of insight on this call, and I'd like to go ahead and bring up a visual for everyone. You've given some insight on how you were able to segment some of these fans. Can you really walk us through what that segmentation looked like and how Stanley, winning the Stanley Cup, helped you directly reach out to your fans through this season so you could help get them into the right segments?
Sure. So certainly winning conference and Stanley Cup finals helped. I'm not going to lie.
Clark likes to say winning cures everything.
Yeah, that was very helpful. What we did in the off season, though, during the pause, we really took that time to say, okay, what can we do so that when we do restart, we're prepared to really engage the right fans at the right level. So what you're seeing on this slide, and Clark alluded to, we have done a lot of data cleanup. And one thing that you have to have when you're moving people in and out of lists and segments is an enter-exit criteria. And so what this is right here is Lexi, my coordinator, and I sat down and we said, okay, what is an engaged, what is the detail of an engaged fan or subscriber? And so we laid that out in engaged. And then what is the enter-exit? So if they have not opened any emails in 1 month, we move them to sleepy. And so they're constantly moving in and out based on the enter-exit criteria that we've set for them. And what you'll see here is that it gives you an opportunity to speak to the sleepy people on a frequency with the right messaging to move them back into the engaged, because that's the ultimate goal, is to get everybody to move back into that list. We also, because our data was such a long time period and we really hadn't done strategic engagement campaigns, we didn't feel right just removing everyone that didn't come back in through the Wake the Dead campaign that we ran, to have them put themselves in the right buckets. There were some people that just didn't respond and we didn't feel comfortable yet. So that's where we came up with the zombie inactive, and then ultimately the ghost, and then the exit. If they don't come back into the funnel, then we archive them and move them out of our database. So that's what you're seeing here.
Perfect. And that notion of wake the dead, I'm sure that everyone listening has some version of that for the people who've gone less responsive. I'd love to, if we could pull up the next visual. We've got an outline that, thank you for sharing with us about how you took some of those non-responders and put them through communications. Someone oversimplifying it might say we sent them an email and asked them if they want to hear from us. But can you lay out kind of what this sequence of communication was to help, as you say, wake the dead?
So this was a collaboration effort when we decided how are we going to set up our data model and how are we going to segment so that we can filter and say, this person we want to send, they behave this way and we want to send them this email. And then you'll see on the far right are our list, our engaged sleepy zombie ghosts that they move in and out of. And so the collaboration was between all of I call them SBUs. We have, events, community hockey, our buyers and suites. So we were like, how do we go from a broad bucket and then start moving them into a more segmented situation? And so this is kind of how we decided it worked the best for us.
Perfect. And it is certainly working. And that's part of what I'd love if you could dive into next, because we've talked a little bit on this call about how you're using Oracle Eloqua to send out a lot of these communications. But what I know a lot of our listeners will want to hear about is not just the sending out, but how are you using Eloqua to manage the success of that and really track? We've got a visual here about how you were able to track some of the email performance and really learn where that revenue is coming from. So if you could tell us a bit more about that, that would be great.
So when we decide we're going to do a campaign, this is kind of what the output looks like with Travis's team and ours. We get on a call or we get around before a conference table and we start saying, okay, who are the people we're entering into the funnel? And if we have multiple groups, there would be one of these for each one. How many emails are we going to send in this campaign? And then what are our decision markers? If they do this, then they do that. If they do this, then they do this. And then how are we going to move them out of this campaign? Or is there a feedback loop that brings them back in? So this is just one customer journey that we did for our STM opt-out, which was people, we did our renewal campaign, Travis, I believe right as COVID was starting. And so of course we were very nervous. Of course we had some fans that were, we don't know what is happening and we're just gonna opt out. So we knew that we wanted to give them an opportunity when the season restarted to opt back in. And so we sat around the table and the virtual table and we decided, let's use their opt-out reason to speak directly to their concern, whatever that is. And so this is the journey that we built out.
Perfect. And then I think we have a next visual for you of kind of how you tracked those results. So they've gone through that journey, but we have a little bit of information here on how you could tell what was being successful.
Sure. So after the campaign, this was actually on, I didn't have this type of reporting for the STM opt-out. So this is where we moved into after the Stanley Cup win, retail email marketing and all of the different channels that we had. So anything that drives revenue, whichever SBU that is, we use UTM codes and tracking codes in Eloqua. So everything is set up that way. And so all of our open rates for email marketing, we do keep in a spreadsheet and we turn those into graphs. And then pulling data from Google Analytics and then we're able, with goals, we're able to use all of the Eloqua open rates to see what's happening combined with Google Analytics. And that's what these are. When I pulled out all of the different marketing channels, you can see here that email was the highest percentage of revenue driver for championship information. So we were like, okay, well, which email is doing the best. And so that is how we were able to use Eloqua to put ourselves into email groups and sending lists and UTM codes to bring it all together and break down the email performance on the right.
Fantastic. And that attribution is what so many marketers are looking for. So thank you so much for sharing some visuals of how you really track that. I think that's going to be really helpful for our listeners. So we've seen the attribution, we've seen the success of some of these channels. Travis, I'd love to turn it over to you. You get access to this information. You are in close collaboration with the marketing team about how these are going. Can you help us understand, how do you capitalize on these learnings and what the marketing team has found out about your ticket holders in order to help you target them for continued season ticket subscriptions and for new season ticket subscriptions?
Sure. Well, first I would say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You guys just saw 4 slides. When data is being presented to you in that fashion, it's kind of hard to turn it down or to not listen. So again, Christina and her team do a really good job of selling the sales guys on considering a different way to do business. And I think it starts there, is that really it's the collaboration that we've been talking about this whole time. The leads come in as warm leads. And for anybody that's in sales, those are magic words, right? We know these are warm leads. They're ready to go. We're not telling our team to make cold calls, which are bad words in sales for some reason. But when you have warm leads, everybody wants to jump on them. And so we have people fighting for these leads. They come in electronically to our managers. We can distribute them based on merit or need. And the conversion rate is usually pretty high because they're warm leads. And without sharing too much proprietary, I can say that Christina and her team have contributed to a large number of folks on our Lightning Priority Access Club list. Hundreds of people will be very soon or very, in the near future, season ticket members because of this hard work. So it's the turnaround time, it's the warm leads, it's the accurate data that just really tees it up and lets salespeople do what they do best: get on the phone, interact with people, and convert.
100%. And so for all of you listening today, we'd love to serve up another poll to you now to hear, Clark and I work with a lot of companies, and we think this collaboration between sales and marketing is pretty unique. We'd love to hear from you about how well your sales, marketing, and analytics teams collaborate. We've got everything here from their Stanley Cup winners, much like the Tampa Bay Lightning is right now, through they deliver a hat trick, which is great, or maybe they made the starting lineup, but they haven't scored yet, down to the no one wants to be in a 5-minute penalty for fighting. But sometimes that can be how sales and marketing interact with each other. So if you could please pick between that, are you winning the Stanley Cup? Are you in a penalty for fighting? We'd love to hear from you. So I'm seeing that a straight up half of the people have said they made the starting lineup, but they haven't scored. Don't be afraid. You're not alone if that's where you are. Hopefully some of the information that you're seeing here, some of the tangible advice that you're hearing from Christina and Travis will help you as you work with your sales and marketing teams. We asked in that survey about sales, marketing, and analytics. If we think of those 3 teams as 3 legs of the same stool, Christina and Travis, can you comment on what role your analytics team plays? Travis just said with the data that is what helps make decisions. That's what helps organize people. But can you talk about bringing your analytics team into these decisions and how they help?
Sure, I'll answer and then happily kick it to Christina. I would say you easily could have had a couple of members of our analytics team on this call as well. They're essential. It is the stool would fall down if we didn't have them, right? Like Christina and her team does a very good job. They hand it off to us. We're ready to sell. But the back end process, having accurate data, pulling that data, ensuring it's accurate, the whole back end process is extremely important. And so I would say to me, it's essential.
So I would agree wholeheartedly with Travis. You have to have your analytics and your BI. You're going to only win if you have data-driven decisions at this, at this point in 2021, right? I would say that our most exciting collaboration with analytics is when the three groups, we get together and we have any kind of game, that needs a little bump. Our analytics team brings us all of the information. We sit around and then we decide, which segment and what kind of messaging or promotion, if we go that route, should we provide. So they're integral. They're so important. Absolutely.
Well, we will make sure to pass that note on to them as well, that you are singing their praises, because we agree 100%. We can't do the work that we're all trying to accomplish to grow our businesses without our analytics teams. So Clark, I'd love to hear from you as you work with a number of these teams, and we work with businesses across industries, about bringing sales and marketing and analytics together and how to increase that collaboration. Can you share any advice to our listeners about how to bring those teams together and what role some of the marketing channels like email can play in building those connections?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of exactly what Christina had said. She sat in on Travis's meetings and join the calls, just to get in there. And you, like the Stanley Cup, it's not given, it's trust is earned. And you sit and you learn what they're doing, understand what, your colleagues are metriced on, and where you can both work together, and it works out great. You've just got to be open to doing it. And I know we've got a question about that. What advice can you have for other marketing leaders like those listening along today? And I think it's being adaptable and looking for other ways of doing things. One of my favorite terms is fail fast. Try a lot of different things, and if something fails, just stop it and move on. But then you're going to learn, and you either win or you learn. And that's what a lot of the teams are doing now, especially during the pandemic. I was blown away that so many of our teams just buckled down and they focused on the basics, and they just used the shelter in place as an extended off season. And they're all coming out of this stronger, better, more marketing maturity, better use of the platforms that they have, and smarter. So I think there's some great things in store for the sports teams and anyone who did that during the pandemic.
Absolutely. That adapting to market conditions, I see that as one of the questions. And please, all of you, feel free to put questions into the Q&A. We'll try to get to those. But that idea of the impact of marketing conditions on the responsibilities, Christina and Travis, that you both have, I mean, I kind of shake and quiver at the thought of heading into tomorrow night's wonderful game that kicks off the season, when you didn't know when the season would start, if, how long it would be, if the crowd could be in attendance. How did you prepare for those inevitable changes that were coming your way that has you all set for tomorrow's game?
Go ahead, Christina.
Well, I was going to say, there's a lot of brainstorming that's been going on, right? How can we engage with our fans? Travis alluded to, Zoom fatigue, because we're on it all day for work now. What are the out of the box creative ways that we can engage with our fans? And it's been up and down. It's been, just being agile to what the community and what the situation allows for. But I think that is kind of where we've put our eggs. And Travis, I'll let you expand.
Sure. On the sales and service side, we have, as we mentioned a couple of times, we were lucky enough to be the Stanley Cup champions, but we won during a pandemic. Our fans are clamoring. They're excited. They're dying to welcome the team back and see them in person. And just last week, we were selling them tickets, and Saturday we had to tell them you can't come. So there's a service element to this as well, and communicating with everybody properly, as we mentioned before. So I think at this point, 10 months in, we're used to the unknowns and having to be adaptable, I think, as Clark said. And it's really taught us a lot. I like the fail fast, and we've had to slow down and learn once whatever the learnings are, and it seems like the next curveball's coming your way. But we know that we're always going to do things again from the foundation of doing the right thing and in the best interest of our fans. And if you start there, we think we'll make the right decisions. So as Christina mentioned, now we know we don't have fans for at least our first 8 home games. Let's figure out a way to get them engaged. There's plenty of different ways. It doesn't just have to be email, telephone, or Zoom call. Let's get creative and find ways to get them excited. And it's reasons like she just mentioned and why it's so fun to work for a collaborative team. Is we know we have the same end goal. Let's brainstorm, think of a bunch of ideas, see what makes sense, try a few things, and just, have fun along the way. We have to remind ourselves sometimes that we do work in hockey, and it is fun.
It is fun. It is wonderful. And to that piece about working in hockey and kind of what is that like? There's a question here in the Q&A I'd love to surface up to you of what does the buyer journey look like at the Tampa Bay Lightning? What are key milestones and how do you use marketing to connect? And if I could just add a tiny piece to that of that buyer journey, can you tell our listeners a bit about that business model of, in case they're thinking ticket holders, this is just a relationship during the season, and how you keep that going year round? That buyer journey is a year-round thing.
Sure, I think it'd be probably best for Christina to start, and then Christina, and I'll take it from when they buy.
Sure. So the marketing buyer journey, we have an official buying journey. It is a table, and we start all the way from awareness and go all the way through all of the marketing stages: awareness, consideration, decision, conversion. And within that, we have laid out, what is the trigger for this? What is the upsell, cross-sell opportunity if there is one at all? Which forms of communication? Is it just email? Is it social? Is it paid? Is it a phone call? And then we very methodically have that built out. That is something, when we built that out, the season started officially last year. It was before the restart, but that's something that Lexi and I have on our plate now that we're not going to have fans, and we're cutting back some of our communications. That's something that is on our look forward for the next month, to build out things like onboarding welcome letters for after they buy tickets, and so on and so forth.
And I would say, and I think, Angela, you were referring to our Bolt for Life platform, which once they've been converted to a Lightning Priority Access Club member, which is essentially our folks that are waiting to become season ticket members, and then they ultimately become a season ticket member, we asked them to become also a Bolt for Life. And it kind of hit us about 5 years ago. We said, oh my goodness, everything else in the world is going to this kind of subscription platform. Whether it's Netflix or a gym membership, everything is you just pay monthly. And we said, well, why couldn't your sports season ticket plan be the same? And we took a hard look at it, and it wasn't revolutionary. A couple other teams had been doing it, and we bought in, thought we'd give it a try. That first year, we went halfway. We said, all right, you can do it, but you don't have to. And we got about 50% of the people to do it. And really what they do is they just simply pay by the month. They get an invoice for their season ticket membership. And at the end of the year, we send them their new dues notification because they're members, and we want them to feel like it's a membership. So they get their new dues, and they can either continue or they can also opt out at any time, just like you can, again, with like a Netflix membership. There was some consternation because, listen, this is changing the way that it had always been done. Is you buy your season tickets, and at the end of the year, give me my new price and I'll tell you if I want to keep them, right? Well, really, a large percentage of your audience is just always going to renew. So you're spending a large amount of money in communication and dollars, and even some soft cost in trying to get people back that were already in. So I even had one guy tell me, and it was like an epiphany moment. He's like, why are you insulting me with this? I'm going to renew. Just keep charging me. And so that's what we do. We have people, and they're on the ride until they tell us they want off. Now, amongst that is a massive service plan where we have, obviously, the buzzword is touch points and connections, and we do all of those things. We provide in-person events when we're allowed to. And I think that's what's most important, is providing a high service level so they don't want to opt out. So they truly will become a Bolt for Life.
Absolutely. And it is that ongoing relationship. I saw in one of Christina's slide about they've been the distant thunder right now, but I know they cannot wait to create that noise and that thunder in the arena when they're allowed to. So I'd like to, anyone on the call, please feel free to put in any questions, but I'd like to, serve up what I think will be the last question to all three of you. What is the best part of your job? So Christina, we'll do ladies first.
Oh, the best part of my job is seeing hockey become more prevalent in Tampa. Just seeing the community rally around us, being a non-traditional hockey town, just seeing people start loving and seeing those jerseys flip to, having 80% Tampa jerseys is seeing that migration has just been outstanding. And being a part of that.
Fantastic. And that is wonderful. Travis, how about you? The best part of your job?
This is such a tough question, and it's a great question. Thank you. I think it's just the chance to, as I said before, to make a difference in our employees' lives, watching people grow and have a chance to advance their career through sports. I've obviously been a sports fan my whole life, and I have to pinch myself that at the end of the day, sometimes we get to work a hockey game. I think the best part is just the whole thing, is knowing that if we had just one little part, one little difference in our chance to be successful as an organization, either on or off the ice, that's what motivates me every day.
Wonderful. And Clark?
Outside of this, sitting on a webinar with you guys, just working with the sports teams, because it's such an important part of the community. All the foundations and the things they do for the community, the fans are so hungry. They've got lightning bolt tattoos on their arms or wherever, and they're willing to commit. I mean, there's no other industry that does that. And so to be able to serve those fans, those highly engaged fanatics is a fun thing to do. And just, I get to work with such great people.
It is. And you were highlighting that is the best part of my job as well. I love getting to know customer stories and the customers, Christina and Travis, like yourselves, and applauding the work that you're doing. I'd like to thank you, Christina and Travis, for your time today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'd like to thank our attendees. If you'd like to learn more about this story, I think we'll be putting a URL right in this chat so that you can see a chance to click through to learn more about the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we really hope that you can complete just a 1-question survey right at the close of this that you'll be sent automatically to tell us how this webinar was for you. And our next customer spotlight is going to be January 21st, when we'll be live with the Workforce Software CEO, Mike Marini. So thank you to all. Travis, Christina, and Clark, if you could join me, let's close with a cheer. 1, 2, 3. Go Bolts!
Go Bolts!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.